Hi everyone, Jen here for Gingerbell Designs and Country Craft Creations. Today I want to share with you how to make a fun chipboard free folio. A very simple folio, but they can be used in many ways. You can give it as a card. It could be used as an album. Anything you want to do with this style, you can actually put this inside of an album with chipboard if you like. So what I'm going to show you, I will be using the Bloom Where You're Planted exclusive Country Craft Creations paper collection. Beautiful blues and yellows and white. And I'm going to be using some navy cardstock from my stash, as well as Tuscan Sun canvas cardstock from my colors that is available at Country Craft Creations. And I have both the 8x8 and the 12x12 that I will be taking papers from when I do my decorating. This folio will be 6x8 when it is done, or excuse me, and so you can use just the 8x8 if you choose to. So what you'll need is navy cardstock for my base. You can do this with any paper collection. So whatever your base color is, you want to cut one piece at 11 inches by 8 inches tall, one add-on piece that is 4 1/4 by 8 inches tall. Then you will need pages for your accordion that are 6 by 7 1/4, and I have 5 of these. And then I will be doing a double angle pocket system, and this will require 2 5 by 6 pieces. Okay, so that's what we'll need for the base. So the first thing we're going to do, grab our 2 larger pieces, the 8 by 11 and the 8 by 4 1/4, and we're going to combine these. So I'm just going to grab some score tape over here from my score tape tower. And I am just going to put this along the edge, close to the edge. And I might actually have a little more paper at the end than what I originally planned, but we'll see how it goes. We may cut some off, we may not. I need my tear tool. It's disappeared on me. There it is. All right. So I'm going to grab a bone folder and get that tape nicely burnished out. And then what I like to do is pull my scoreboard in. And this way I can make sure my paper lines up nicely. I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to use where my tape is as a guide to put this on. And it's right at that 3/4 inch, it looks like. So we're going to go right in, make sure we're even at the top and the bottom. And then I can lay it down. Okay. So that is what you will have. Now we're going to keep our scoreboard out. And what you want to do here is we are going to do some scoring. And let me just double check my prototype off to the side here. So your first score is going to be at 5. So that will be our first one. And then we need a 1/2 inch. So we're going to go to 5 1/2. And then I need to check again here. I made a prototype of this many moons ago. Then we're going to do 6 inches from here. So we want to go over to, let's see here, 5 1/2 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to go to 11 1/2, and that'll give us 6 in the middle. And then what we have left over here, wait, that's not quite right. I need another 1/2 inch. We're going to do the 12 as well. Apologize for that. And then what you have here is going to be a flat. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my corner rounder as soon as I can figure out what I did with it. I am notorious for losing that thing. I don't know how I lose it, but here we go. All right, so you can use any corner rounder you like. I want to round all of these corners. I'm going to do mine at the 7mm on my We Are Memory Keepers. Okay. Get rid of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and fold on all of my score lines Just making sure that everything lines up nicely. Again, we're not using chipboard. When you put the paper on this, when you decorate, it will be much more stable. It may seem a little floppy just using the paper, but you can also use a heavier weight cardstock if you prefer. I am just using what I have right now. I'll go ahead and fold all of my score lines, again, making sure that everything lines up nicely before burnishing. Sometimes the paper, especially when I'm using stash paper rather than really good quality paper, it doesn't like to lay down the way I want it to. Okay, so this is what you will have for the beginning of your folio. You have a 1/2 inch here and a 1/2 inch here. You'll have a small flap on the side, which we will turn into a small pocket system probably, or you could put a small waterfall for 2x3 photos. You have that 1/2 inch space there, so you can do quite a bit with that. So this is what the base will look like when you are done. Okay, so next what you want to do is we're going to do the accordion insert, and this is where your 5 6x7 1/4 inch pieces come in. Put these on your scoreboard so that your 6 is across the top, and we are going to score those at 1/2 inch on all of them. Again, you should have 5 of these. You're going to score that 1/2 inch, like I said, on all of your pieces except for one. And I actually think I need to double check my prototype again. I'm sorry for that. Yes, you need the 1/2 inch on all of them. All of them, yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure. So 1/2 inch on this last one. And now what we're going to do is we're going to attach these and turn them into an accordion. Super simple as well. I'm going to use glue for this. You can do this with score tape, but I do suggest glue. My glue is in a Barely Art glitter or a Barely Art bottle. However, I am using art glitter glue. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold and burnish our score lines, those 1/2 inch lines that we made. And then you want to take the next piece and put it, leaving your 1/2 inch score mark on the opposite side. Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to burnish that out just a little bit better. It's not quite as nice as I'd like it to be. Now we're going to add glue to that 1/2 inch space. And you want to, I'm going to bring my scoreboard in. Again, I like to use it to line things up that need to be straight. And an accordion insert needs to be straight. So I'm going to put this up here. Remember, your 1/2 inch score should be on the bottom, and then we're going to adhere the other side to that spot we just put glue. All right, make sure that that's on there nice and straight, right up to the edge on all sides. And then you can burnish that out. And there is our first page. Okay. Next, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to fold this over that second line, which is not folding very nicely for me. But sometimes you can get these on here a little wonky. There we go. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to add glue just to that flap. Grab our next piece, leaving that 1/2 inch down, and go ahead and put that in there. Now I want to make sure this time that mine is all in a line. The last one got a little bit wonky on me. And now you have 2. Okay, and you'd want to do this first before you do any decorating, because you want the decorating to cover all of these little blue 1/2-inch pieces. So let's go ahead and burnish the next one and do the exact same thing. Basically, we're making a little booklet that will be 5.5 by 7 1/4 for the pages. All right, stick that on there and double check. Whoops, I slid it. That is not what I wanted to happen there. I got a little ahead of myself. Yeah, this one is really wonky. I'm going to unfold this so I can get this on here better. I do not want it to be wonky. So you can also hold it with the tab folded down and then hold your paper up to it so that you make sure you get it right at that edge. For some reason, this one was giving me a bit of an issue. All right, let's pull this one up a little. You really want it to line up as close to perfect as possible with the last one. Perfection is not always possible, but I would definitely suggest trying as hard as you can to get them really, really equal. Once this is in the book, you want everything to work together and smoothly. So, all right, last page. And you know, now that I think about it, I don't think I needed that last page to be scored. I knew there was something. It's been many moons since I made this project, so I am not positive, but I will take a look again here in just a minute. Because you're not going to have another one, so this would end up being 6 inches, and that's not what we want. So this will face this direction, and you can, if you want the tab to pull, which I think I am going to go ahead and just leave it like it is, and then we will put the tab, I'm going to open this up, make this a little easier to burnish so I don't have any warping. Rather than placing the whole page down like I did in my original, I think what we'll do is we'll put it at a tab, so it'll go in the book tab. Let's just take a look. So grab your base. This is going to go right in the center, and we can do something on the back side, but you will have to decorate this. Normally this would go in here and it would stay stationary so that one back piece would pull out, which is how it should be. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. So only score your, if you've already scored it, you can do what I'm going to do here and just cut this 1/2-inch tab off. But only score 4 of these out of the 5 at that 1/2-inch mark. I'm just going to grab my cutter and I'm going to pull this in and put this at that 5.5, which is right here. It's not the easiest thing to do when you have folded paper, but we will make it work. There we go. Okay. So we're just going to cut that off. And then you will have, this will be what you'll have. So they will open out this way and the other way. Okay. So that is that. And that will, like I said, will adhere. Now I probably will adhere mine like a pocket. So this will adhere inside here, like so. And I'll probably, like I said, maybe I'll put some gussets on it so the pocket's thicker. Yeah, let's do that. And then we have it, it'll sit right inside of here. This will be a pocket. You'll decorate the background of this first. I'm going to use some of the patterned paper on the back side of this. And then we can turn it into a pocket. And I will show you that as soon as I get to that. Now, for this front portion, grab your two 5x6 pieces. We're going to have an angled pocket that goes this way and an angled pocket that goes this way. So, grab your scoreboard. And we are going to take these two 5x6s and we're going to score the first one at 1/2 inch on the left, even though I said right on this one, and 1/2 inch across the bottom. Okay. Another one, we're going to do our 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. You can flip it, the one I did on the left on the right. So then this will actually be what we have. So these are going to sit. So then what you want to do, grab a ruler and a pencil and take your ruler and go from the very edge of the paper where that score line is to the other one. Okay. And then just draw a line, and that's where we're going to cut this off. That's going to be our angled pocket. Now, if you want your pocket to be a little wider, you can do that as well. Again, I am going to, that was my right, this is my left. I am going to go here and here and draw a line from side to side. Okay. Then you want to take this, and you can either fold this down to make a thicker pocket, or you can just cut it off, which is what I'm going to do. Use a smaller cutter for this, and I am just going to put this in my cutter where that line is. Line it up with your blade on the top and bottom before you cut. And there's my first one. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Lining that up with my pencil mark. Well, I got that one really close. All right. So for these, we want to miter the bottom corners. So right at that cross section, go ahead and just miter that off. And then we're going to fold our pocket first. We're going to do some more cutting, but first I'm going to fold the pocket over. And this one as well. And as you can see, there's some overhang. So we're just going to use our paper on the top as a guide to simply clip that extra off. Easy peasy. Do the same thing with this one. So we're going to fold this one to the right. We did the other one at the left, so we want to fold this one to the right. And go ahead and clip that extra paper off. Now you can leave this paper if you don't mind it showing, but I prefer to cut it off. Now you can also clip the tips if you want a squared off pocket. Hi everyone, so I am just going to slip this in before my tutorial. I discovered when I was doing the walkthrough of my folio that it's a little tight when you do it the way that I chose to do it this time. I've made a similar folio in the past, and I didn't do as many inserts, and I also did not make this back piece a pocket with the 1/2 inch gussets. I do like the folio best this way, but here's my suggestion to you to, if you don't mind it not being completely flat, it kind of has that tighter appearance. then that's fine. But I wanted to make sure that I added a suggestion in for you before the tutorial starts, so that if you want more room for all of those inserts, plus adding photos or whatever it is that you want to put inside yours, and you want to do that back page pocket page system, what I would suggest is when you cut your papers, give yourself an extra inch. So the first one, we had cut, let me find my measurements here. We had cut an 11 by 8 and a 4 1/4 by 8 extension, okay? So what I would suggest, I used 12 by 12 for this page, and the blue I used on the original was 8.5 by 11. So basically what I have here is an 8 by 12, so 12 inches wide, 8 inches long. And then I didn't quite get this at a 1/2 inch, but what I had left over here is 4 3/8 by 8 to make this all work together. And then this was put with 3/4 inch score tape. It was attached, so that's why I have less. So depending on what you have left over, when you attach your pages, you should end up with, so you have 1 inch spines rather than the 1/2 inch. You could also do 3/4. So you're going to have a total of 16 inches when you're done here of paper. So keep in mind this up to a 1/2 inch of extra space here. So you would probably want to do 16.5 as your total length. Okay. And then for the scoring to do this, everything else will be exactly the same as the tutorial going forward. But if you do want to make more space, like I said, you just want to change the size of your spines from a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So in this instance, we would score just like the original at 5, but this time we're going to go over 1 inch and score at 6, and we're going to score at 12. Okay, that gives you your 6 inches in the middle. Then we just want to fold that 12-inch score line, bring it up to the front of our scoreboard, and score it 1 inch. And that's going to give you your 1 inch and your 3 inches here. Okay? And then, of course, rounding the corners, the only other change that will be made is the size of paper that covers your spines. And so we have 1/2 inch before, and those were 7/8 by 7 7/8. Now you have 1 inch. So these will be, or excuse me, those weren't 7/8, they were 3/8. Now you will have 7/8 of 1 inch by 7 7/8 on your spines, and then you will have 3/4 by 7 3/4 for your decorative paper to cover your spines. Okay, so on with the tutorial. Okay, so I have some of my decorating done, and I wanted to show you, this is why you don't need chipboard. So once you add your mats and decorative paper, you can see it's very, very sturdy. There's no play in this whatsoever. So I have started my decorating, and what I want to show you now is this pocket here. Now, originally I was going to do double angled pockets, and I made an executive decision to do a little bit more embellished pocket here and put a tag or another type of insert in it. So what I've done is I have cut a piece of 5.5 by 8 1/4 paper, the navy that I'm using for my main color. And I'm going to score that with it at the 5.5. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to turn it and score across the bottom at 1/2 inch. And we're going to make a fun little pocket out of this. Then what I did is I took my Brother Scan and Cut. I fussy cut this image from the paper. I scanned it, and then I cut a larger version of it to make a mat for it. So this is what comes out of your machine, and then you put this on. If you don't have that, you can simply fussy cut and then fussy cut the paper, or fussy cut the image out and then apply it to paper with some glue, let it dry, and then you can fussy cut it freehand if you don't have a cutting machine. And I am noticing that I have a little bit extra on this side here, so I'm just going to trim this before we make this pocket. It's a little more of a border than I want on that side. So there, you can see that. Okay. So for the pocket, we're going to miter that corner at the bottom here. It's going to end up being rounded anyways, but we want to miter it for now. And then you just need to take your ruler, and I'm going to go from the score line, that 1/2 inch score line. I am going to go in at 1/2 inch and make a mark. And I'm going to do the same thing at this one. So I'm going to go from the score line that we made in 1/2 inch. If I could see. Sometimes darker paper is a little harder to see. And make a mark. And then I'm just going to simply take my ruler and go from one mark to the other mark. And I'm going to draw a line. Okay? So this is what you'll have. And then I'm going to put this in my cutter. And I am going to cut on that line if I can. This cutter is not large enough. I'm going to grab a little bit bigger one here. Bring out the big boy. All right. So I'm going to simply put that penciled line that I made, top and bottom, even with the blade. And then I'm going to cut that off. And you'll see, I'll give you a nice little pocket shape. And I probably should have done mine on the opposite side, and I did not. So I am going to, well, no, we're going to cover this with paper. So never mind. So go ahead and we're going to fold and burnish our 1/2 inch flaps. So you'll have your nice little 1/2 inch flaps there. Now you could do it the way that I did it originally too, with the 2 pockets that were, or at least 1 pocket. You can just do the angle pocket. This is just another option. The 2 pocket thing that I explained earlier didn't really work for me anyways. So now what I want to do is I want this to line up nicely. So I am going to take my corner rounder and round that bottom because I want it to line up with my paper. I'm going to put it all the way over that paper. And you see, I cut a little bit larger if I want the yellow to show. If I don't want the yellow to show, it's fine, but I still need to snip off about 1/8 inch from the end here. This is just a little longer than I want. So I'm going to double check that again, just kind of dry fit it. And yes, that is much better. You just want to make sure that it's not impeding your score line there, that where your book turns. I'm going to go ahead and round the top part of my pocket as well, so it all lines up. All right, so that's what we'll have. And then I'm going to cut a piece of paper, and I will use this as a guide. So I'm going to grab something. A good background style paper. I think I like this one because it's nice and dark. Let's just grab our B. No, we need some white in the background. Maybe this one. You just want to grab one of the papers that you have. I think I'm actually going to go with some yellow. And I have this really pretty yellow. So we're going to do the yellow here. So I need a piece of this that is, we're going to start with it being 4 3. I'm going to say 4 7/8 by that 7 3/4. So 4 7/8. I'm just going to cut this. And then I'm going to take about 1/4 inch off of the bottom of this because I know this is 8-inch paper. Okay. And then you just want to use, I think we can use, it's a little bit big. I am just going to simply put my paper on here. I'm going to line it up, just kind of make myself a little template here. And make a line. I'm sure there's probably an easier way to do this. I just don't know it. So I'm going to put this in my cutter. Again, I might have a little bit too much of a length here to do this. Nope, I can do it. And I'm going to cut about 1/8 of an inch past that line. So I want the line that I drew 1/8 of an inch over the blade. Okay. And this should work, but it's not an exact science. I'm not sure that's going to work, actually. I think what I'm going to do, just to make sure, if I do this on the cutter, I can't really show you. So I am going to grab a self-healing mat and my cutter and my metal ruler, and we will do it that way. That way you can really see. You can also use the spacer bars if you have those from Country Craft Creations. So what I want to do is make this a little bit smaller than that line that I made. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to leave, I'm just going to eyeball this to be about, it's about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm just going to shear this off. Okay. So there's that piece. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I want to cut off on all sides the same amount. So I'm just going to cut 1/8 from here. I would say it's about 1/8. Let me double check for you. Yes, it's about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do the same thing here. I don't think that quite cut through. And you may have a better method for doing this than I do, and that's fine. There are probably many, many ways to make a template to cover your angled pockets that I'm not aware of. So we're going to do the same thing on that back side. Just go ahead and, like I said, I'm eyeballing. You can draw a line and do yours if you prefer to be more exact. It's probably a little tiny bit less than 1/8 what I'm doing. We'll see if I did this right. Now I need to round my corners, top and bottom, so this corner and this corner. And this should work. Let's see. And it's a little bit more of a border than I might want, but it works. So that's how we're going to cut that. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down to my pocket. And I'm going to put that on there. Like I said, it's a little more, but I can change my angle too. If you don't like the amount of border that you have, the easiest way to remedy that, which I don't like how much I have, so I'm going to show you how to remedy that. I put mine, when I glued it on, I simply put it over this way further. And by doing that, now I can just cut another line straight down this with what I want. So what I'm going to do is grab this again. I'm going to do it this way. And I am just going to simply shear off about half of that because it's a little bit more border than what I wanted. So I'm just going to slice off that blue. X-Acto knives come in handy. If you don't have one, it's a great tool to have in your crafting tools. And cut that edge off. See, now I have a much better, more even look. Okay? All right, so next I'm going to make a shaker box for the cover. And what I have here is a piece of the navy that I'm using. I have cut that to 4 3/8 by 6.5, just under 6.5. And then the Tuscan Sun, my colors canvas cardstock, is at 4 1/8 by it's a tad over 6 1/8. Hopefully you can see that. And then I have taken one of the cut aparts from the paper. It's from the 12 by 12. It's this sheet here that has a bunch of these different cut aparts. And I cut one all the way down. And then I cut it out, the middle portion of it, this portion, and kept the frame because this will be elevated. This will be underneath and our shaker bits will go on top. So a piece of acetate is also needed, and I have adhered that to the back of my frame that I cut out of the cut apart. So the first thing I want to do is adhere the blue and the yellow piece together. And there are many ways to make shakers. This is just one of many that I have learned along the way, and there are many tutorials out there. There's also pre-made shakers if you prefer not to make your own. That is also an option. Lots of companies these days make shakers. They're quite popular. All right, so I'm going to get this all burnished out. And this is just the framing of my shadow box because I want a little of that pop of that blue and yellow from the bottom. So this will go in the middle, leaving, it's about a 1/2 inch on either side and a little bit more than 1/2 inch on the top and bottom. And then this will go on top of our foam tape. So what we want to do first is adhere this. So now that I know where it's at, I am going to grab my pencil and I am just going to make a little mark at the top and the bottom of where this is, so I know where to glue it back down. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down. Using that as a guide. Got about 1/2 inch, like I said, on either side. Okay, make sure that's on there nice and straight. 1/2 inch top, 1/2 inch bottom. Yes. Okay. Get that all nice and burnished. And next I'm going to add some foam tape to make my shaker box. As soon as I figure out what I did with it. Here it is. The foam tape that I am using is, it is a width of 3/8. I might have, yeah, that will work because that's what we have about here. I just don't want it to show. So I want to make sure, yes. Okay. So run your tape at the top of this along the edge. And then we want to clip that off. You can use scissors or you can use an X-Acto knife, or you can pre-cut these so that they're exactly the same width and stuff as your box. But we want to make a nice little box all the way around. This one I went slightly in and I don't want to do that. So I want this right at that edge and at the edge of my other strip of tape. So these probably aren't the greatest scissors for me to use. I need something serrated, I think. That is not straight. We want to make sure that this gets on here nice and straight. Just keep going around. And depending on what you decide to put in your shaker, is what thickness you're going to want. I need to make sure I'm doing this correctly. Yes. In other words, if you're going to put like heavier thickness, you're going to want to put 2 layers. If you're just putting, say, sequins for shaker bits, then you don't need 2 layers of tape. I am going to do 2 layers. So I will put this all around, clip it, and then I'm going to do a whole nother set of that. So I will take the tape off and do it again. So try to get these right up to each other so you get a nice square shape, like so. Okay, push down any abnormalities. And I'm going to go ahead and take my tape off of this one and put another layer on so that I have a double thickness, because I'm going to add some little dewdrops and such in here, and I want to make sure that they don't get stuck and hung up. So in order to ensure that, I need to make sure that I have thick enough shaker. All right, so now I'm going to go around again, do the exact same thing again. And this time I am going to overlap this way, just to go over my line that I made. So I'm going to go all the way to the end this time. Clip that off. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm sticking to it. I apologize. This stuff is super, super sticky tape. Okay. Clip that off. Yeek. It really wants to stick to my fingers. I should have just enough to do this box with this roll. Okay. Maybe a little extra. Just gonna stick that in there. I do my best to line it up really nicely, and then I can go in and clip it off. All right, so now that is, my tape's a little bumpy there. Hopefully that doesn't cause any issues. So now we have our shaker box ready to put stuff in. So before you peel your tape off, figure out what bits you're going to put in here. I'm going to grab some really quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have mixed up my own little shaker bit mix, and I'm going to take an anti-static bag and I am just going to kind of dab it inside of here. Dump my shaker bits in there. Super fun. I've got some, I like to make my own shaker bit elements mixes. So I have a whole shaker bit bar off to the side of my stand-up desk here. And I like to, like I said, make my own. And that way I can do whatever colors I want and make sure they coordinate nicely. And it's just a preference. So they do make lots of pre-mades. There's lots of them available in the Country Craft Creations store that you can get. But I like to just do a mix of different things, different pearls and beads. It's looking like these little blue ones that I have in here, the larger version, is a little big. So always check your sizing once you pour your shaker bits in before you completely put your shaker together, because I have found now that these blue little glass balls that I have in here are a little large. So I can leave the small ones I have, but the big ones I need to pull out of here because they're not going to clear the shaker and they'll get stuck. So once I get those out of here, we can put the top on. All right. So like I said, I have a nice little mix of stuff in there. Got some smaller beads and stuff. I have some yellow sequin, flower-shaped sequins, and some blue. And then I just like to put my shaker on top, just kind of look and see if I have enough shakers. And I don't feel like I do. So I'm actually going to go off camera again and grab a few more things to stick in here. All right, so I added some more sequins in there. Now I'm going to take that anti-static bag and I am going to wipe it all the way across my acetate frame that was made before I put this on. And so you can see they're not as staticky as they would be had I not done that. So they will still be a little staticky, just not as bad. And it looks like we may need to cut a piece of paper because my score tape is, or my sticky tape, no, I guess it's okay. If you don't like that tiny bit of the white from the foam tape showing, I would suggest adding. Let's see, I'm still a little staticky here too. I'm not quite sure why. It shouldn't be. All right, so I'm going to grab some blue paper to avoid that look. I'm not liking that shows. And I'm going to actually measure. You know what? No, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I apologize. Okay, so we're just going to static this again, just to make sure that I am not going to have a bunch of static. And we're just going to go ahead and pull off the backing of this. Be very cautious in doing this so that you don't pick up any of your shaker bits. And I'm going to add a couple dots of glue in a couple spots just because I want to make sure I get a good stick. So like up here where our stuff meets, I want to make sure that this all sticks well. So right in those sections where your pieces of foam tape meet, I highly suggest doing that. And then we're just going to set this on. Like I said, a little bit of that white. Okay, a lot of bit of that white. Oh boy. Having a little bit of a problem here. All right. What I am going to do, I didn't quite measure this correctly. I apologize. Let me just scrape all of my bits back into my shaker. I don't make a lot of shakers this size, and I just boo-booed a little on cutting that frame out. So I should have used a smaller score tape, or foam tape actually, is what I did wrong here. So bear with me for just a second. Share with you my little oopsie for the day. I am just going to cut another piece of paper as soon as I get these bits off of here. Don't want those on the paper or on the sticky because then it won't stick. Or it will stick and it'll leave little bumps. Goodness. Okay. It's probably a much easier way to do this, but my brain says do it this way. All right, so I'm going to push this aside for a minute. I want to see with the tape on here. So to fix this, I'm going to cut a piece of the blue paper at 3 and let's use the other ruler. This ruler is terrible. I want it to be 3 7/8. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of this at 3 7/8 by 5 7/8. Okay. So I'm going to cut this out of camera because I don't want to move this. So 3 7/8. By 5 7/8. Okay, now that piece of blue paper. And now I need to cut a square out of this, the middle of this, that is 3 inches by 5 inches. Okay. So, gonna have to slide this over 3 inches by 5 inches. So we have 3/8. I'm gonna put this at a half all the way around and cut my hole. So I'm gonna go in here at a half, and I am going to grab a pencil, make a mark, get that 1/2 inch in from this side, and then 1/2 inch from here is right about here. Okay, do the same thing on 4 sides. So we're gonna go, let's see here, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. I eyeballed that and did it right. What do you know? Okay. I'm gonna go back down to this one, 1/2 inch. And it's a little more than half, so let's erase that little mark. 1/2 inch right here. Make sure that marks at half. It is. Again, we're going to do 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. Okay. So then what I want to do is I am going to grab the metal ruler, because it's easier to use an X-Acto knife with a metal ruler. And we are going to go from one dot to the other dot as evenly as possible. And I am going to cut a straight line all the way down to that other dot. Did that go through? Oh, I had something on my board. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to cut from dot to dot. Make sure you're nice and even when you do this. Okay, do it again. We're going to do that all the way around. This is just going to act as kind of a mat to cover up my little boo-boo of cutting that frame out too much. Gotta have, I don't want my foam tape to show, so this is a quick remedy if you run into the same issue that I just did. Okay. So now we can pull all of this apart as soon as I cut it all. There we go. Now this should work. We shall see. I should be able to put this on top of this, and it'll, yes, perfect. Okay. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to glue this on here first. So just go ahead and put glue all the way around your blue frame that we just made. Try to get it on the outer edge because I don't want glue to seep onto the inner portion of our acetate. And we're going to put this down. Perfect. Grab a rag so I can get any excess glue off of there. Oops, we slipped. Now, when we put this on, nothing will show. So, bring your shaker box back in, and then just go ahead and set this down evenly over your tape. And there you have it. And lightly burnish, because it is a foam tape, you don't want to squish it. So just kind of lightly burnish it out so you make sure it's nice and straight. And there we have our fun little shaker box. Super fun. And that will be on the cover of the album. And I got one wanting to stick. That's all right. All right, this will be on my cover. I will be back to show you how I decorated the album and how to insert the accordion portion in the middle and the pockets. Hello everyone. So I am back to do my last segment of my video to show you how I made my Bloom Where You're Planted album, or excuse me, folio. It's more like an album. However, this is a no chipboard version. So I have not used any chipboard, and you will see that in my tutorial. So we have our base all done, and I will show you I have my decorating all completed here. And then my little booklet. So I have done all, like I said, I've done all my decorating, but I will tell you, I will have a list that shows you the sizes to cut for the base, as well as what you cut for this, as far as the decorative papers go. And then also I'm going to go through, before I show you how to put this in the book, I'm going to go through and show you the different ways that I've embellished the pages and show you the sizes I've done for my photo mats. So I've done a couple photo mats here. And on this page, what I did is I took a piece of the paper that matched. And as you can see in the album cover, or folio cover, I used the same paper here and here as I did here. And that way you see this fun little fence pattern going all the way across. I just love this paper. It's so pretty. I love the blue and yellow and white together. It's a really, really pretty combination. It pops really nicely. So what I did here is I took a sheet. I'm going to see if I still have another. I did use quite a bit of the 8x8, and I also utilized some of the 12x12 as well. I don't think I have any more of that fence paper. So anyways, this was the top portion of the paper, the 8x8. And I just fussy cut that to make this fun little pocket and made sure it lined up with the paper below. So then I just did a couple photo mats. I used navy at 4 1/4 by 4 1/2. And then this white paper on top is 4 by 4 1/4 on both sides. So that is the back one. And I did this so they would layer nicely. And then I used some of the Tuscan Sun My Colors Canvas cardstock. And this, it came out to be 3 5/8 by 4 1/8. And then our white paper for this is 3 1/2 by 4. It's a little off. And then I used a scrap of this yellow paper again on the back. So you can put it either way. I kind of like it that way, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it just gives you a little bit of extra there. So then inside the angled pocket, I made a fun little booklet using some scrap and the navy paper and some of the Tuscan Sun, and then one of the cut aparts. So this booklet itself is 4 1/2 by 7. So that would be 9 that you would cut, 9 by 7, and then scored at 4 1/2. And then this yellow paper below is 4 1/4 by 7, or excuse me, 6 3/4. And then I just cut all of my other pieces, my scraps and my cut apart down to match. I rounded this top corner and the bottom corner of my border. I put this twine underneath the front and glued it down with that. And then when you open it, I have 2 larger photo mats in here. And again, this white paper will be 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. And then just round your outside corners that line up with the rounded corners. And then we just tie that shut. This just comes around. You could also embellish the back of this if you like. I did not, but is definitely optional. I'm just gonna tie this little thing shut here. And I probably won't do a walkthrough just because I'm going through all of this with you now. And then I will move right to the tutorial of how to build the album. So we have our space here, and this paper, I have a matte in yellow at 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. And then my decorative paper here is 5 3/4 by 7 3/4. Okay. So let's get back to the little booklet here. So this opens this way. I've added a little pocket here. This is a gusseted pocket with 1/2 inch gussets. So for that, I took a piece of the patterned paper, and it was cut to 5 3/8 by 3 1/2, scored it half on 3 sides. And then I've embellished it. I tried to use all of the different pattern papers for this collection so that you could see them all being used. And by doing that, I have a lot of bold patterns and stuff throughout. So you can decorate this any way you like. So here we have 2 more photo mats. This is done with the Tuscan Sun at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then our decorative paper is 4 by 5 1/4. And again, the white would be 4 by 5 1/4. And I just love this image. So that slides right in. All the corners were rounded. That slides in there. And I like to push it up just a little so you can see that bee. Then I have a navy photo mat, 4 by 4 3/4. White paper on top, 3 3/4 by 4 1/2. And then I did the 3 3/4 by 4 1/2 of this paper. And you could put either one in. I like the contrast of the white on top there. So that's what we have there. Over here, I used one of the cut aparts, popped it up on some of the Tuscan Sun paper, fussy cut some of the bees and put those there. Fussy cut a little of the hive so it pops out from under my photo mat. And this photo mat, again, navy cardstock. And I did use some artisan navy that I had, but I did not have enough to do it all. So part of my inserts were done using the navy artisan, and the rest of the navy you see is cardstock from my stash. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, and our white papers are 4 by 5. And that just slides nicely into there, and you can see that little pop of the bee there. And then I'm going to pull it and open it again. We have a little belly band here, a couple more photo mats, and I just popped another one of the die cuts up on some Tuscan Sun and cut a border around that. This little piece here is just attached at the sides to make a fun little belly band. We have a smaller for like a 2 by 3 photo. This is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. So we have a 2 1/2 by 4 1/2 for the white paper and patterned paper, whichever you choose. The larger photo mat here is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and our papers are 4 by 6. Okay, and those can go in either way as well. You can put the flower side up or the white side. For this one, I took one of the cut aparts, added a 1/2 inch gusset, so folded a 1 inch by the width of the paper that I had, and scored it down at half and put that. And I did use the same paper that I have in the background. Then I just added a white photo mat inside. That is 3 5/8 by 5 7/8. And then you have your white photo mat up here, and this just flips closed. And you could add a magnet to this if you want. It's heavy enough that it really doesn't require it. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to go back the other way so that you can see the other sides. So this one, when it folds open, we have this fun little pocket with a notch in it. Used a circle punch for that. And our background, here's where I utilized a lot of the patterns, as you can see, but I love it. I like all that pops of color. I took 2 of the 3 by 4s and made these little bifolds with our paper inside. So these are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, 3 by 4 for the white paper, as well as the cut apart. And I did 2 of those. And those just kind of pop in that pocket so that you can still see that fun little beehive up there. And you can pop them up any way that you like. Originally, and somewhere along the lines in my tutorial, I explained that I did this. I cut the border out using my brother scan and cut. And then I was going to use this elsewhere on the front pocket, and I chose not to do that. So I put it on an angled pocket using the blue paper on this page. And then I just snuck a fun little photo mat in there. We have navy at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And white paper at 4 1/2 by 6 on both sides. Okay. Next page, we have super fun, another little tuck spot created using scrap, glued just around the outside. As skinny of a line as you can get so you can get more in here. You could actually fit quite a bit more in this pocket. It's quite loose. And I took one of the die cuts, and just added it glue all the way around the edge of my photo mat so that you could tuck a picture up in there. And this one is a larger photo mat, and it is 5 by 6 1/4. So 4 3/4 by 6 for the white paper and the pattern paper on the back. And that just tucks in there. This last page here, this is our back page, and I did an angled pocket here, used a scrap of paper to add to it, and then I tucked another photo mat using that fun blue plaid. And here we have a photo mat at 5 by 6 3/4, 4 3/4 for the paper, by 6 1/2 on both sides. Okay, I'm just going to put that out the white. I kind of like the white better. Tuck that in there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to adhere this. First, I'll show you this. So, let me set this aside. So I decided to turn the booklet back page into a pocket. And how I did that is I just cut strips of my navy cardstock, and I cut them to the length of my book, which is the pages of 7 1/4. So I cut this down to, I cut one at 2 at 7 by 1 inch and scored them at 1/2 inch. And then this bottom one was cut to 5 1/4 by 1 inch, and it was scored at 1/2. And then I just rounded all my corners and mitered. So you can see how there's some mitering in there, and that just gives you this. So now I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to take out all of my inserts. So this is a little easier to adhere. So I get rid of all of this bulk, and now it's a little thinner. And if I get them all out of there, it'll be even thinner. I missed a couple. We just need it nice and flat to adhere it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, take that one out too, is add glue to those 1/2 inch gussets. So hold on to your book. You don't want to get glue anywhere else. Get this nicely glued. Try not to get glue all over my hands here. Okay. And then I am just going to put this down. Try not to stick my fingers in the glue, but it's almost impossible. Make sure I'm in camera. Now I want to go almost all the way to the bottom. So I have a little bit of that plaid showing at the very bottom of the page, but not a whole lot. So we're going to go right there. And then you can see my fence just kind of nicely goes together. And I want to pull this all the way out and open so that I can just double check that everything is lining up nicely. And it is, I believe. Let's look at the other side here. Yes, okay. So then you just want to grab a bone folder, pull that out, and just smooth all that out as good as you can. I'm going to actually take a longer straight bone folder using this end, and I'm just going to go in and make sure that I get all the way across there. I'm going to go in with the corner too. I just want to make sure that this adheres nicely to the book. Okay, and now I have this fun photo mat for a larger set of photos, and this is going to be 5 1/4 by 7 1/4, and then 5 by 7 for our white papers. All the corners were rounded. I took 2 of the round die cuts, glued them partially on and then together to make this fun little tab. And that is just going to slip right back here in our pocket. As soon as it's dry, it doesn't like to get all the way to the bottom unless this is dry and burnished nicely. Yeah, I should be able to get it in there nicely. And it will stick out a little, and that's fine. So now I'm going to go back and put all of my pieces back in. If I can remember where they all go. So this goes this one. Yeah. And this one goes here. And this one goes here. We have 2 of our little small ones here. And then, let me see here. I need my 2 smaller ones that are here. Stick these in like so. Those go in there. And I'm trying to remember where everything goes. These are the ones that go here. So lots of room for photos. This would make an excellent, excellent gift for someone. This one goes here. And this one goes here. And we have 2 more, so those go right here. Cool, I remember where everything went. All right. So now, as you can see, you have this whole booklet. And then this will close like so. And we are going to add that shaker element that I did. I might not actually be able to put that one there because this closes up, but you want it to be able. So I might just stick one of these in and we'll put this one somewhere else. It doesn't really matter where you put them. Now, if you wanted to be able to fit even more stuff in here, you could up the size of your spines to 3/4 of an inch or an inch even. I'm not going to do that because I don't feel I need to. So the next portion is going to be adding our shaker box that we make. I will show you how to make. And we will be adding ribbon underneath of it, just like we did that one insert. The ribbon goes under the shaker box, wraps around and ties here. So I'm going to grab some ribbon and I will finish up. All right, so I have my shaker box and I have some white ribbon here. And I'm going to flip my album over. Now, I didn't embellish the back side yet. I'm still debating on that one. I'm just not quite sure what I want to put on there, but this won't impede that. So I may add something to that later. You can add pattern paper to this if you like. I'm just not sure. So I want to put my ribbon on here and make sure that we have enough. I'm going to go ahead and close my book. Pull this around and just make it so it's the same. All right. Now that I know that that's going to be where I want it, now I can actually center my ribbon. And I'm just going to grab a little piece of score tape. Doesn't matter what size because it's going to be covered. And I want to put that right about where I want that ribbon, just to hold it in place while we're gluing. So just go ahead and put that on there and then add your ribbon. So it's on there. This just helps it ensure that it stays kind of straight. You don't want your ribbon flopping around. So, and then I am going to put my shaker box down and it's going to hold that ribbon into place. So we're going to take our glue, and I prefer to glue my shaker boxes. Score tape, you can use it if you like, but I don't feel that it sticks permanently like I like. It works, but I just prefer, oops, this method. So I'm going to grab my shaker box and I'm going to kind of center it. I don't need it perfect. I just want to make sure this ribbon stays nice and straight while I'm doing this. And then you just want to take your bone folder and run it around gently around the outside portion of your, and if you get a bunch of glue like I just did, spurt out, just clean it off and just go around and get that nicely burnished down your shaker box. We need that to go all the way. All right. All right. So then you just close your book like so. Bring your ribbon around the back side, nice and straight. And then we can tie our fun little bow. Now you could put some sort of an embellishment here if you prefer that look. You don't have to. That is totally up to you. I would suggest tightening this pretty well. And then we will shear our ribbon down a little bit. Obviously, we don't need this much. So I'm having a little bit of an issue with the way mine's laying, and I think it's because I have a lot of inserts, and I don't probably need as many. I just wanted to show you some different types of inserts that you can make. But this, you just trim this to what length you want, and there you have it. Super fun little folio. Like I said, no chipboard required. And I did use 8x8 and 12x12 Country Craft exclusive Bloom Where You're Planted papers. And you get the die cuts with the 12x12. You get them as well with the 8x8. There are sheets of them, but you will have to cut them, just so you know. Okay? And I have used Navy Artisan. I've used Tuscan Sun Artisan. And I've used some Navy from my stash as well. So I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you continue to follow me and see what's up next. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.